Hello, friends. It is now 6 o'clock. Well, according to YouTube, it's 6 o'clock, but my computer clock is still saying 5:59. My phone is also saying 5:59, so I don't know who's right and who's wrong here, but let's assume I'm right because it's my stream. Um, anyways, uh, pleasure to be here this evening. If you weren't aware or, perhaps weren't able to make it, I just did a live stream webcast for SANS on Wednesday. Or sorry, yesterday, and that's already up. That's already up on YouTube. So check out the SANS Pen Test YouTube channel, and I've tweeted out a couple links, but I'll include a link in my video description. But basically, the premise of the talk was, running offensive programs in an office where you may not have the resources of a normal whole offensive group. Making a lot out of little resources kind of thing, and just little ways to implement some offensive security work into your day-to-day office life. So that was fun. It was a talk that I gave at Hackfest, and I really enjoyed it, and SANS, I guess, enjoyed it too, so they invited me back, which is nice. Good morning, Hydro from Germany. Oh my goodness, it's 3 a.m. in Germany. I appreciate you still being awake. I assume you didn't wake up for this, so I appreciate you still being awake and joining me this evening. And so I'm getting ready to leave for SANS Orlando on Sunday, and I'm going to be a teaching assistant there for it's over a week. So I still can't, I'm not going to be able to stream next week. So I wanted to get in a stream sort of like the last one. It's going to be a little short, but I wanted to get one in so that I wasn't going, almost a month till my next one again. Oh my goodness. So we have a viewer from Ireland as well. I had no idea I had such an international contingent. I appreciate everyone staying up, and hopefully you've had, you've either had a couple drinks or had a good evening if you're not a drinker, but sipping on some scotch myself. So, but yeah, so I wanted to get this webcast in. I want to, now that I'm not studying constantly not studying for a test, I want to get a little more consistent with my streams and not go, 2 months without streaming. So here we are. We're going to do Sense, which this is not the retired machine list. We're going to do the box Sense, which is just recently retired. I usually don't do them this quickly after retiring, generally because IPSEC does a video right after something gets retired, and I don't like our videos to overlap too much, too much of the same thing. Obviously, his videos are very good in different ways than mine, so they're both valuable, but having two videos so close to each other is a little weird, so I typically try and get some of the older machines that he hasn't covered in a while. That being said, we're doing Sense anyways because I just recently did it. It's relatively quick, and it has a couple. It has a neat thing that I wanted to go over with it. And anyway, so we can go ahead and just get started. Oh wait. Okay, there's some chat stuff. So Infosec John says he didn't know that I did this. Yes, I do these. They're not scheduled regularly. I just kind of do them when I have time. So if you don't miss them, or if you do miss them, don't worry. They always go to YouTube afterwards. I usually get them up same day. And then Hydro says, if you don't mind, could you talk about Privesk if the situation is right? I can talk a little bit about Privesk. Sense does not have a very difficult Privesk to it. Several of my videos have extensive Privesks, or at least interesting Privesks. So I can, maybe when we're going through it, I can point you to some other videos for Privesk. The Securite video, I believe, has a pretty good one, and then the B-Sides Edinburgh also has a pretty good Privesk. So I would check those out. Those videos are pretty good. There's some really good active machines right now, Hack the Box machines that are active that have some pretty cool Privesks. I just did last night. I did Poison, and I finished up Jeeves, and both of those have some pretty cool privesques. So, give those a shot. Once those retire, I'll do some videos on them. But I had quite a bit of fun with both of those, so I wouldn't expect they'll get retired too quickly. But anyways, we'll go ahead and just jump right into this. The IP address for Sense is 10.10.10.60. As usual, we have, I have my other Tmux tab here that's got my VPN connection on it, and then we've got our bash, kind of the working tab over here. As normal, we're just going to go ahead and do our. Whoops, man, I am out of it today. Today was a long day at work, but we're going to do our normal nmap. We're not going to use P yet. We're just going to nmap the address, and then we're going to OA, which is output all formats, to our just default ports. And we're going to do this because there's no real reason to scan all the ports on this machine. It's not necessary. I know normally in my videos I do that, but this video will probably take 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and I don't want it to run too long just because we're waiting for the tools to come back with responses. So we'll go ahead and start that up. And we'll pop open another tab, and as usual, we're just going to assume that there's a port 80 here. We're going to curl, and actually we already see it. So we know that there's a 443. So we've got burp. I've got burp already up and running. So we'll go ahead and just check out what this website is. If we look at burp kind of going crazy over here, if you see, we did our first request. We did our only request to browser request to HTTP. And then the response is a 301 moved permanently. And it says that it wants us to move to HTTPS. So our browser automatically redirects to the HTTPS site. And then we load a couple extra. We got some JavaScript here. We got some JavaScript stuff that gets loaded in as well, but here's the main page. So we'll see that there's a PHP session. What's my terminal name? Dwizzle100 asks what my terminal name is. I'm using Tmux for my terminal multiplexer. So just the standard terminal emulator from Kali, and then I use Tmux inside of the terminal emulator to get the multiplexing stuff going on. And the IPsec has a really good video about the Tmux stuff, so I don't generally get too far into what I do with Tmux. I would check out IPsec's video for that. So anyway, so we got our redirect to HTTPS. Here's the extra stuff it loads. We can look through here, but really we're looking at this website. And right off the bat, we see that it's a PF sense. So this is, if you can see here, that's actually PF and then sense. And if you're not familiar with PF sense, that's a Linux/BSD firewall, like open source firewall software. So, some like Uber Linux guys will, instead of having a Linksys gateway or a Ubiquity gateway, they'll just run their own like BSD machine plugged into their modem and do the firewall themselves. So this is what that is. We can start this off by, I'm going to use GoBuster to do the dir bustering. And I actually, this box, when you actually do it, is all about enumeration. And because of that, it took me a while to actually find the specific files that you're supposed to find that kind of lead you down the puzzle path. And I could do all of that, but that literally took me like an hour. So I went ahead and set up a word list myself that's much smaller and will allow me to kind of show you the stuff that I did without taking an hour to come back with all the files that we end up needing to get. We're going to force a slash on the end of every guess to try and guess other subdirectories. We're going to use the extension. We know it's a PHP site. We're going to use txt for like robots.txt and other possible just text files. We saw some JS, so we're gonna use a JavaScript extension, and then HTML because it's a website. If we don't find what we need, generally, I like to, when I'm doing recon on things, I have two different approaches. One is you go super narrow, and if you don't find what you need right off the bat, then you kind of expand scope until you get what you need. After like one or two rounds of that, and by super fast, I'm talking these tools should return within maybe 5 minutes tops. This is really long, and I'll fire off like two or three of them, so I'm kind of bouncing around between terminal windows. If I don't get what I'm looking for in 5 minutes, or I don't get stuff that leads me towards what I'm looking for in 5 minutes or so, then I'll generally launch like a more expansive, time-consuming thing. So I'll like include sh and then .cgi files and like all this stuff, and I'll just all of the things that I'm expecting to find, I'll add to here, and then just like launch it while I walk away, make myself some lunch, or work on something else. This should be enough, but this is expansive enough to kind of catch everything we've seen and everything we kind of guess could be there. Without like having to run one for PHP and then go, oh, we didn't find anything interesting, and then run one for TXT and waste a bunch of time that way. I'd rather run concurrently. So because we're on VIP again, we can use like 100 threads, honestly, and with not on VIP, or if you're in a slightly more populated VIP VPN, then I would tone that down to 15 or 20. But I throw 100 on there. It's specifically for the videos, so that you guys can, we don't sit here all day waiting for this to come back. We're going to use U, and we're going to 10, 10, 10, 60. We're going to use the -K because it's an HTTPS site. And if you notice, it's not secure or anything like that. So we're just going to disable certificate checking. Am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something. I think this should be enough. So we can go ahead and launch that. And right off the bat, we're getting some, index and help.php, stats.php. We got a change log, which is kind of interesting. So let's check that out. Oop. So the change log, this looks like some sort of automated output from maybe an updater, an update script or something. But we say there was an error, or there's a failure in updating the firewall. We need to manually patch something. 2 of the 3 vulnerabilities were patched automatically. So there's still a vulnerability laying around, which is good to know. That's, this is vulnerable, so we should continue checking. Of course, we're metagaming a little bit, because this is a hack the box box. So of course it's vulnerable, but that's good to know. So we're waiting here. Now, something that we normally do, if we cat, or we've got our def ports right here, we can do the step that we normally do, which is we'll do an nmap, and then we'll -A for service checking and default scripts associated with those services. And then we'll specify specific ports that we found. And then we'll give our target here, and we'll output -A. We'll just call this targeted scripts, which is what I usually call them. And so this will just scan these 2 ports and kind of run a battery of default scripts, pulling robots.txt if they exist, doing some basic directory checking, stuff like that against this box. Why is this not going? There should be more here. Should be coming back faster. So in our output here, we've got we can tell that it's a light HTTP server. It redirects to HTTPS, which we already knew. We can see some information about the certificate, when it's valid, when it's not. And that's about it. It's guessing. Excuse you. What happened here? Oop. Did we go too fast, maybe? I get this sometimes No, 100 threads shouldn't be too big for the box, unless you guys are all on like my VPN and following along. But if you noticed, like we were able to come back with this like super fast. It doesn't seem to be crushed or anything. The Nmap came back pretty quick too. So what I have noticed, unless I borked the word list. Oh man, did I bork the word list? I might have like yeah, yeah, I totally did. Um, Man, that's embarrassing. So I made this special word list and made sure that the entries that I needed were in it. And then when I pared it down because it was like 12,000 lines or something like that. So I was like, oh, I'll just take the top 600. And I think the entry we needed was like 650 or something like that. So if we do something like, uh, everybody don't peek. Uh, you guys didn't see that. All right, so we're going to run this again real quick and be like, oh, look at this. Oh my God, where did the system users.txt come from? I must have had some kind of like vision. I had a crazy vision. Borked like Robert Bork, the Supreme Court nominee. Yeah, so I don't know what that is. Borked is I don't know. That's a really old term. At least I knew it from, let's say, junior high. At least I mean we're talking like mid '90s, late '90s. I think I was using that term. It just means to mess up. I don't know what the etymology of borked is, but I think it predates the Supreme Court nominee. There's a fan from Brazil. That's awesome. It's cool. It's cool that there's so many international people here. That's awesome. That makes me happy. My YouTube stats are like I think it's like 90%, like 90% US. So it's nice to see a bigger diversity on the live stream. So, anyways, we have this system users here, which is kind of what we were looking for. Roto Penguin says Bork is a Swedish chef thing, and that's absolutely true. I'm just not sure if that's where we got the you borked it up or I borked it up, but it's also a Swedish chef thing. You put the chicken in the basket. Okay, so excuse me. We found the system users.txt, and it says that we should create this following user. I assume support created it. Username is Rohit. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. Maybe I messed it up. But the password is company defaults, and we don't want 3 10 10 10 60. We don't want to actually like use company defaults here because that's not going to work for us. So we need to know what the we don't want to use, or we need to figure out what the default credentials are, right? So if we look for default credentials, pfSense, can maybe find, we can find the default passwords here. What is the default username and password for pfSense? Maybe we should have started here. Admin pfSense. So let's try that. Okay, that doesn't work, but we can try Rohit, right? Okay, and this looks like we're getting in. I'm catching up on chat here. Okay, Bork, obstruct. Someone, especially a candidate for public office, through systematic defamation or vilification. Wow. Yeah, Roto Penguin says that's pretty far from the modern usage, and I think that's true. That's... Oh, wow. No, that's... Okay. That person totally called it, so it's Bork, like Robert Bork. That's literally where that comes from. Huh. That's terrible. I didn't know the origin of that. I'll probably stop using that. Not that I use it a ton, but wow, that's amazing. See this stuff? I I actually mentioned this. They asked me about the live stream during the Sans webcast, and one of the things I said is that I really enjoy doing it because I learn so much. And generally, I'm talking about hacking stuff because I mess up in front of a couple dozen people, and I go, oh no, and then I have to learn something. But this time, I'm like learning the etymology of slang that I use that I didn't realize where it came from. So that's awesome. Okay, so we're looking, here's some interesting stuff. We see that we're on 213, which is good to know. We can probably start looking for possible vulnerabilities in exploit DB. Could be our next step. What I did notice when I originally attacked this box, I was kind of like looking through these bits, but there's not a lot available here, so I didn't start clicking through everything, though as we'll see in a minute, maybe I should have. So we'll do our search exploit. For those that remember from other streams, search exploit is the ability to it's a tool included in Kali that basically searches all of exploit DB, and Kali keeps a database, like the entire exploit DB database, on its hard drive as part of the apt-get apt update process. So you can use search exploit to search exploit DB, which is great because then you don't have to do this frickin' CAPTCHA over and over and over again. And it actually talks about it here. It's like, are you sick of the CAPTCHA? Use search exploit. So we're going to use that search exploit, and we're going to search for pfSense. And so if you remember, we're on 213. So we're going to look for 213 or something near that. Excuse me. So here's a bunch of cross-site scripting stuff. Cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting is great. It's really useful for live targets. It's a great find on an engagement because you're like, look, this people can steal cookies this way, or we can trick users into loading malicious content or all kinds of stuff. It's almost never useful on a CTF or boot to root unless there's very sophisticated automation going on, and that's a hint for net wars or hack the box or pretty much any CTF that's live, that's active and has time bounds to it. Almost never do they have the kind of automation in place that allow you to carry out like a cross-site scripting attack on some of the challenges. So you can mostly just skip these. So we kind of, here's a bunch of cross-site scripting, super good, but not useful here. We have a command execution in 231, which might be a little too new for us. Let's see. Wait a minute. Yeah, I don't see the exploit. Oh, you know what? I think we might be looking for something else. So yeah, I think we might be looking for something else. So let's go back to, cool. When I was setting up this box a little earlier to make this faster, what it turns out I did is just, like make this not useful for us at all. So I need to add another entry into our word list here. Pay no mind to the man behind the curtain. So we're going to do this. Oh my gosh, tree, what's that? We're like omniscient hackers right now. It's funny, I can see my viewership dropping. This is not the smoothest webcast that I've done before. Okay, so we're going to go to tree. We're going to check this out. We're like, what's tree? Oh, silver stripe tree control. So this is a type of CMS content management system that it turns out these people are using to front end the pfSense application. So we're on silver stripe control panel tree, or silver stripe tree control version .1, and that's in October 2005. So let's do another search exploit. I'll let you know. I'll have you know that I did this machine late last night, so I haven't done a lot of a lot of work on this. It's not really ingrained. So we'll search for silver tree. Silver tree. What? Silver stripe. Silver stripe. Oh no, man, I'm going crazy over here. Search exploit silver stripe. So InfoSec John asks, is GoBuster better than Derby Dirbuster? I prefer it for a couple reasons. One, Derby is a great tool. I'm a big fan, but it's single threaded, so it can only make one request at a time. Dirbuster can do the multi-threaded and has several other functions to it, but the what was I going to say? It's a GUI only tool, and it's a Java GUI only tool, both of which bother me. I'm not fully against GUIs. Obviously, I use Burp. I use some GUI tools here and there, but in general, when I want to just blast a web server and find a bunch of directories and files, it's much easier for me to stay in the terminal. And additionally, Dirbuster just seems to slow down. It's a Java thing. I don't know. I'm pretty prejudiced against Java. In general, I find the implementations of Java aren't very good, even though Java itself as a language could be treated well by its developers. Okay, so we've got a few options here. If we look at our version, can we look at the version? So right here, it says version 1 from October. So we'll look through these again as well. So cross-site request forgery is sort of the same class as cross-site scripting for purposes of CTF challenges. They're only really useful if you have someone to trick into executing the attack for you, someone with higher privileges or whatever to run the attack for you. So that's not usually very useful. We can do a member login form information disclosure. That could be useful possibly if we need to do a little more enumeration. HTML injection could be interesting, though again, that's usually just getting scripts in. We have file renaming security bypass that could be useful. Multiple cross-site scripting, again, not very useful. Let's see, we got PHP code injection, which is probably very useful. Open redirect is going to be good for spamming or phishing. Multiple vulnerabilities could be interesting, and then upload.php arbitrary file upload could also be good. So we're going to take these in order for no particular reason other than the fact that I know the first one's the one we want. So we're going to copy this guy, this here. And in other videos, I have mentioned that I have linked, I've done a symlink from this path to Sploit so that I don't have to type this entire path and then copy this as well. I can just type Sploit and then this, and it translates it for me. So, and then the dot to copy it here. So just to go over what that means. So we will look into my root directory. And if you see here, there's this Sploit thing in like a teal, and it points to that big long directory path that was up here. So this is a symlink. It's like a shortcut in Windows. The way you do it is you use ln and then s to make it a symlink, like a soft link. And then you do it's exactly like copy, though a lot of people get it backwards. And I tweeted recently actually to someone that it took me almost a decade to do this right the first time every time. But the way it works is just like copy. You start with your source and then put in your destination. And in this case, your source is the thing that exists, and then the destination is where you want to put the link at, right? So you would do something like user share exploit platforms, and then you would put Sploit. And that's how you would, oops, And that's how you would do it, just like that. So anyways, that's how I did mine, and I find it very useful. So we've got this Python file here. I think this is the right one. This is not the right one. That's not the right one. Am I missing something here? So I solved this on my laptop. Let's see here. I solved this on my laptop, and maybe I am missing something here. Oh, is this the command execution? Is this it? No, because it's a text file. It's definitely a Python. Search. Oh. Or did I find it somewhere not here? This is funny. Maybe I should have reviewed my notes before we started this live stream. So what are we doing here? So we've got pfSense, and we've got a 2.1.3. There's directory traversal. Traversal command execution. I wonder if I'm missing something here. Oops. So there's definitely an exploit for this stuff. Oh my god. See what I'm talking about with the CAPTCHA? This is why search exploit's amazing. Oh yeah, here it is. Did I? Did I grab the wrong one? Wait. No, I don't think that's... This is not... This is not the one. Maybe it is the one. Maybe I should maybe I should go grab my laptop and find out what the hell like what the hell's going on here. But maybe we should just solve it live. Screw it, we're doing it live. But there's definitely... God, I really thought that was it. Whoop. Wait, with vehicles? What? Is this it? Yeah, this is the one. So do I? Huh. I don't have it in this one. This is interesting. I wonder what's going on. Maybe I need to. I guess my laptop is more up to date than my desktop, which is weird, but I guess I use that more often. Anyways, okay, so we can just download this one. So this is the vulnerability, or this is the exploit that I was looking for, which is perfect. Remember when I called out specifically that we're on 213? This is anything less than 214, and there's a vulnerable endpoint here. And so if we take a look at this, it has us put in the remote host, the local host, and the local port, and then the username and password so that it can log in. Right, this is an authenticated vulnerability. And then it sets up its reverse shell. So this is just a Python reverse shell. Super easy. It doesn't have anything fancy like Meterpreter or any crazy stuff, but this is basically the Python version of just shoveling bin sh back over like netcat or something. So pure Python way to do it. So then it logs in, and then it runs the exploit here. So if you look, you can, let's see here. So it does database queues, and then why does it do this? Why does it do this? What is that for? So what this looks like it does is it says, I don't know why it has this. Because if you're not familiar with Python, the plus sign just concatenates strings. So basically it says, okay, in HTTPS, the R host, which is just the, let's see where it does that. R host is just the remote like host, the IP address. And then slash, so it'd be like this, right? And then it'd be like slash this string, right? Oop. And then it breaks, assuming like looking like it's going to give a payload or give some sort of variable or something, right? But no, it just concatenates these two strings. So then it looks like we do printf after this. And then there's printf plus, and then this, what is happening here? Printf plus that. And then the payload, and then this sh. So if we do, like let's see, if we run id, why not? Let's just see what happens. Sh, like this. Printf, single quote, and the payload, single quote, and then sh. Why not? Cannot be displayed. Okay, I'm curious how it's building this string. Wait, no. Oh, here's the URL. Plus it's got all these headers and stuff. It's using requests to send the to send everything. And so it hits the login page. It's going to get the login URL, and then it's got to grab a CSRF token. Okay, so we're not going to be able to see all of this, but what we'll do is we'll run a TCP dump or Wireshark or whatever. We'll use Wireshark for expediency, but we could run TCP dump and then open it in Wireshark just to see the requests that are flying across. It is HTTPS though. Will we be able to see that? We could theoretically shoot this through burp as well. We'd have to modify a bunch of the Python code, and to be frank, I'm not really feeling up to that right now. But let's go ahead and just grab this exploit here. All right, so we will vi pfsense exploit.py. Okay, VI can be weird sometimes. So if you noticed, like when I pasted this in, it just like looks awful, and that's because basically it's trying to insert indentations for all of the enter, like the carriage returns that are in here. So like every time there's a carriage return, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So if you see this happen, you can undo, U for undo, and then in command mode, not insert mode, you do : set space paste. Whoop. Paste. What? Not an editor command. I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. Vim set paste. Type set paste. Oh, it's not caps. There we go. And then we just get our normal indentations that came from the actual page. Okay, so we will right quit that. So let's just kind of analyze what it's doing again. We'll walk through this. So we walked through the URL that it creates, and then it sits here and it compiles some of the headers. And this is important because this is a standard user agent. We set up who the referrer was, which is just the login URL. So that allows us to log in and then move directly over to the vulnerable page. We want URL form or URL encoded form as a content type, because we're going to be shooting this, and this has some like URL encoding stuff in it. I'm not sure why they're doing this. They're like reordering the headers. I don't think requests need you to do that. And requests is a Python library. Also requests by default calls URLlib and URLlib3, so I don't know why they did that either. But requests is a library for doing easier HTTP requests through Python. URLlib and URLlib3 are the like normal, built-in Python ways to do things. But requests is a pretty rad library if you have to ever deal with like web requests. So they use URLlib3. This is just like, without importing URLlib3, this is just like two more statements. It's like requests.urllib3. But what they're doing here is they're disabling the certificate warnings in case the place you go doesn't have a valid certificate, or, which is much more likely, what it does is it takes in like an IP address, possibly, here in the R hosts, and then if it goes to the IP address, the certificate won't have the IP address in the certificate. It'll generally have its name. Oh yeah, RotoPenguin points out that the payload is turned into octals. So that's a good point. So that's one of the several reasons probably that my payload earlier didn't work. So we skipped over that little bit, but yeah, it basically goes through this whole thing and does this oct calculation. So just like there's hex codes for ASCII, there's also octal codes for ASCII. So anyway, so this builds sets up a place to hold the session information for the URL requests or the HTTP requests. It goes out and it gets, it logs into the page. It grabs the CSRF token, which is important. It looks for the CSRF token and then grabs it. Okay, I see. So it creates this variable called index, and it finds where CSRF token is, and then it goes into the page where CSRF token is, and then the next 128 characters, which is how long this CSRF token is, becomes this variable CSRF token, and then it's probably used, down here. And then when it does its, it also posts. It's not a get, it's a post. But when it runs this exploit against the vulnerable endpoint, it has to get all of this stuff. So it's going to grab, it's going to put the login URL as the, wait, what's going on here? Login request. Oh, this is it logging in. So the login URL, the encoded data for, that's why it's doing a post. The encoded data, I assume that's the login data. Username and password, and then is there an encoded data? Did I skip it? Encoded data. Okay. So here's the login data. It's got the CSRF token, the username, the password, and then login for submitting the form. It ordered dicts those as well, and then encodes them using URL encoded stuff, and then posts it. Then after the login status comes back as a 200, which is okay, then it builds the actual exploit request, which is the exploit URL, the cookies, the headers, and everything, and it runs. So that's the script. Let's put it into practice. So we're going to need two things here. We're going to need a netcat listener. Ooh. We're going to need a netcat listener, so we'll go ahead and NVLP, and that stands for don't bother with DNS. Give me verbose output so I know when something connects back to me. L is to listen, and P is to designate the port. So we're going to listen on 443 as well, because why not? So we've got the listener set up. We need to find out what our IP address is. It's 1416, good to know. So if we Python, where'd it go? Oh, pfSense. What's going to tell us what? Oh, because it's Python 3, I think. So if we head pfSense, yeah, we see that it's using Python 3. So we have to Python 3. Now, if we would have, let's chmod this. We'll just give this execute permissions for pfSense. Because of the way they did this shebang, it'll know that it should be ran with Python 3. So if we actually just // this, why? User bin Python 3. So if we I thought there was, I thought it had some sort of like argument set up here. It's like, hey, if you don't have this, I guess it doesn't. Okay, cool. So if we, let's take a look so we know what arguments we need. Okay, so we're going to need pfSense. We're going to need rhost, and that's 10.10.10.60. And then we need lhost, which is 10.10. 1416, because I can remember stuff. Let's see, 1416, and then L port is 443. Username is Rohin. And password is pfSense. Okay, so we have all of our variables set. We should. This is the correct target. Good. This is our IP address, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to run it. We've got our netcat listener here. So let's launch that. Error running exploit. Oh, we were supposed to do, we're going to do a Wireshark anyways, right? So this Wireshark should hopefully let us know what error is going on. So, oh, well, we won't know. Oh, Rohin. I did it wrong. Thank you, Hydro, for calling it out, and Dwizzle100 for calling it out. So this is why I have a chat, because you guys keep me working. CSurf token obtained. It'd be nice if it came back and told you that it was an authentication error. That wouldn't be too hard to code up. Maybe I'll make that fix. Okay, so you can see here that we have a shell. And if you're like me, you're going to be like, oh, cool. So let's cat etc password. And okay, so Rohit is the user, right? And so we'll go over to home, Rohit. Can we read it? Everyone can read the user text, so we could cat user text if we wanted, right? And then, so I cat the user text, put it into Hack the Box, and I was like, sweet, let's start finding the privesc. And so, like, I'm looking around and I'm kind of doing some crazy stuff, and I was like, oh, I should start getting the Python, PTY thing set up, which doesn't work from a Python shell, by the way. All the time, I just completely ignored the fact that I had the pound sign sitting there as my prompt. So I probably spent like 15 minutes just kind of looking around the box, seeing what I could find. I looked for. I did like perms 4,000, and then 2 into dev null, because I didn't want to see all the errors, the permission errors that I wouldn't ever get. And I was like, oh man, I didn't find any like set UID or anything. All the while just ignoring the fact that I was already root. So here's a lesson for everyone. Run ID when you first get on a box, because maybe you're already root. Who knows? Or, just pay attention to your prompt. But, as root, we can go over and, we can see all the stuff here. And, there's the root.txt. If you notice, root.txt is world readable, because, you're never not going to be root on this box once you exploit it. So anyways, that was fun. That was the super short box that ended up taking us 53 minutes anyways. And hopefully, despite some of the several hiccups of me trying to cut corners and failing miserably, hopefully you learned something and had some fun. All of the overseas and out of country viewers, thank you so much for staying up late and joining me on this. I know even Brazil, I think, is like 3 or 4 hours ahead of California. So, it's, almost 11 there. So thanks again. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I had a good time, and I'll see you all next time.